gentlemen, to another episode of NXT 2.0 review from Wrestling Never Sleeps. I am your host, real Adam Anthony James Martin, the straight shoot in a suit, alongside my main man Travis this evening. Travis, how are you doing tonight? I know you're in the States. What was the state that you're from again, and how's the weather there, first of all?
Well, we're here in West Virginia, and it has snowed a lot. I haven't been back to work. Being a school teacher, we haven't been back yet. So we got a 2-hour delay tomorrow. So I'm ready to get through this. It was good to be able to be up late, watch it, and well, we'll see how good it was.
Definitely. As you know, I'm from Canada, Southern Ontario, a province that is now covered in snow as well. It's about 4 to 5 feet deep in some places. So, nothing really going on today. It was more of a stay-in kind of day, other than, getting excited and getting ready for tonight's episode of NXT 2.0, which we are here to talk about on the Wrestling Never Sleeps network. We have, a few things I would definitely like to run over with a few things in between. But first of all, we have maybe established a world title challenger. The North American title picture seems to be heating up with a bunch of competitors involved. In the mix for that, we have the Dusty Classic kicking off the first round, the quarterfinals. 2 matches are set in stone, so we know who's advancing in that. And then also, we had a main event that was definitely worth talking about. Walter, one of my favorite wrestlers, coming over from NXT UK, now on the main roster for NXT USA. And, he was facing off against one of the most talented athletes that have ever graced an NXT ring. Potentially in the wrestling business for a smaller guy. Roddy Strong is just one of my personal favorites. And, we're definitely going to hit that off this episode with that match alone, because it was beautiful. It was bigly, it was explosive. It was kind of what I expected to see in this match. High impact, a lot of chops, realism. The work of art that these two can put on with each other in the ring is definitely magic. Travis, I know the show itself wasn't anything over the top, but I think when it got to this main event, this kind of put it over the edge a little bit and brought the excitement level up. And again, I was excited. You were excited. I'm sure everyone in the WWE universe was excited, especially for NXT, and giving us this main event free on television. What did you think of the match? What do you think of both competitors? And before we get you going on that, there was a little change at the ending of the match that I'd like you to touch base on as well for us, because it seems like Walter is no longer going to be called Walter. Is it the impression that you got?
But that is what I got. When the announcer said your winner is Walter, he took the mic and I think he said Gunther, which of course and probably most people watching, that's the name that's already caught heat within 12 hours of them copywriting it. Because of Gunther Stark, who's of course a infamous Nazi. So I don't know if that's where they're going. I don't know how I feel about that personally, because whether you take offense to it or not personally, it's still probably not the right call to make when you already have a guy established to begin with. And with that being said, I don't know where they're going with changing Walter, who everybody loves for his style. He's different. He's intense. He doesn't need a change. Walter should remain Walter.
Couldn't agree with you more, Travis. I was really confused on that as well when he did take the mic and proclaimed to be Gunther. Whether it was Gunther or Gunther, it's referencing, is he supposed to be like a German affiliate or?
And here's the thing: if you're going to take a German and make him Nazi, that's the easy way out. Come on.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And for such a family show, WWE NXT 2.0 is not really the edgy type of show. In ring, we don't get to really see blood, unless it's at like War Games.
Right.
We don't, because, we don't hear swearing. We don't hear that Attitude Era edge within the program or visualize it as well, because they just don't do it. But with a name controversial as this, it reminds me of something that you mentioned earlier, and that's the character of Muhammad Hassan. And that brought a lot of heat for a show that was edgier back then. Now on a family-rated show, essentially, that's designed and looking to be designed for younger audience, children, and a merch selling machine.
Right. And look
This
what
is
it did
confusing.
to Muhammad Hassan. Was, I thought, a great talent. I thought could have went so much further than what he did, but because of the gimmick, because of the name, because of one thing they did in particular on SmackDown, they got nixed, and he never rebounded from it. He never got a new gimmick. Right now, he's teaching school somewhere.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what's going to happen to Walter if you send him out there as a Nazi, named after a Nazi, and people catch wind of that?
Like you said, the heat's already coming in. It's that go away heat. It's not good heat that you like to see a top heel have, especially someone that, like you said, is already established as Walter. A wrecking machine in the ring, authority figure behind the scenes with this group Imperium, who I really enjoy watching now that they've reestablished themselves as top contenders within the company or the brand itself. But again, this direction is quite questionable. And
I hope
sure
we're
a lot
just
of people's minds.
sorry. I hope we're just overanalyzing, and maybe he didn't say Gunther. that's where I'm going with that.
Maybe we just misheard him. It was Walter, but in a different language.
Yeah, right. He had to clear his throat.
He definitely cleared his throat. What did you think of the match itself, though? Despite the ending there with the name change, which appears to be a name change. Gunther hits the power bomb on Roddy Strong. He also got his hands on Bevins, which caused a bit of a distraction, which I liked because the smaller man working the knees, or at least attempting to. But Walter's Walter. He's just too good. They should have been the early strategy within the match. It definitely was not, as he was going chop for chop, which you just don't do. As you can see the difference. we heard Roddy's chop on Walter, but we witnessed, the effects of Walter's chop on Roddy. So there was just a complete mismatch in that aspect of it. But I like the way that he tried to attack the knees, didn't get over, and that's real to me. So that's something that was a major positive despite Roddy losing. And I think the right man went over. What did you think of the match per se and the two's chemistry? I think for the first time they've competed now in the ring one-on-one. So that was really cool to see.
As you said, this was the main event, and it's for sure there's no two people that they could have put together, I think, on a Wednesday night or Tuesday night, that could have kept my attention more or kept my anticipation higher, because I love Rod Strong forever. Walter, again, watching him in NXT UK, somebody that I love. So they had me, and I think they had most people. And then when you see them in the ring, as you said, their chemistry for the first time, it was great. Roderick Strong going chop for chop, a little bit better than I thought it would be. I thought they'd make it maybe 80-20. I thought Walter would really have more of the match in control. I think with Roderick Strong, psychology-wise, he was just trying to get away from it and land hard hits when he can, and that told a good story. There was interference by Bivens, but he kind of got his comeuppance, and that's something we're going to touch on here in a minute, how much interference there was through the night. But it made sense in this match because it didn't end the match. It didn't really cost anything other than, I think it continued the story for what it needed to be. But yeah, back and forth, hard hitting. Oof, I never want to be chopped by. I learned I don't want to be chopped by Roderick Strong, but I damn sure don't want to be chopped by Walter.
No, not at all.
You just see the sweat flying, and it was great. I actually enjoyed that last 15 minutes or whatever it was of NXT, way more than I have anything that we've watched so far since we started doing the show. So I thought that was a good thing.
That was very cool. Yeah, definitely. And they could, like you said, they couldn't have picked two better guys to main event on free television for Tuesday night fans of NXT 2.0. It was a meaningful match and it meant something. As well as another event that was going on the card, Travis, the Dusty Rhodes Classic also means something. It has a value to its name, obviously named after the late great Dusty Rhodes. A lot of fan favorite, for many people out there that are true wrestling fans, especially of the NWA era. The JCP era, you got to respect and love Dusty, everything that he did for the business, and the fact that they have the Dusty Rhodes Classic back now for a few years, and seeing the teams that have came throughout that tournament on, the winning end and, the losing end as well. This tournament has really made a lot of good tag teams for the future of this company, and not only the brand, but, to the main roster, as we call it, Raw and SmackDown as well. We had 8 teams, 4 matches set up. We had 2 quarterfinal matches tonight. We had Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs versus the Creed brothers to kick it off, which was a really good match. I didn't really know too much about either of the teams, but I'm a big fan of the Creed brothers now that I've seen them in ring a little bit more. What were your thoughts on the match? And do you think this was the right pairing for the first round of the tournament?
I think it was, because a little bit later you had Briggs and Jensen kind of do a backstage segment. So they're going to be hanging around. The Creed brothers, of course, being part of the Diamond Mine. I'm really just not getting into this NXT 2.0 as you are, as we're starting the show. So they're growing on me as well. And I think that it's showing tonight that they're probably going to be the ones that end up winning this. But as far as the match itself, good pace, told the story it needed to. The right people came out on top, especially if you look at the end of tonight's episode.
Yeah, it was a well put together match as well. I can't really criticize it for two young teams that are again fairly new to the main stage on USA with NXT 2.0. So it was exciting to see the growth happening within the brand itself. These new up and comers coming through, making names for themselves and putting on matches like that, and for them to advance to the semifinals, is a key thing for them, and to establish themselves in the tag team division eventually, potentially, like you said, win the tournament, challenge for the tag team championships, which are now held by Emporium as well. So something to look forward to in that.
And again, I think did it end with no DQ, or not no DQ, with no interference? It might have been the only match of the night that didn't have interference.
I was going to say that I think that was the only match that didn't involve interference. Again, something that we're definitely going to talk about, because it's a huge part of the theme of the evening, it seemed. We could, speaking of interference, we're going to continue on with that other classic match through the Dusty tournament, which also involved interference. It was, Legado del Fantasma versus and here's Ofi, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And that's Malik Blade. Again, these two up-and-coming guys that we don't really know too much about. I haven't got to see too much in ring, but last week they pulled an upset win, and a lot of people thought they were definitely going to lose this week. It definitely was not the case. Again, there was interference in this match, which seemed to be, again, the theme of the evening, unfortunately, which took away a lot of credibility, I think, for a lot of the winners of tonight's card. But again, a push through for this young breaking team. They have the support of the world champion, NXT champion Braun Breaker, as we've seen backstage in a segment after the match itself and before, a little hype up. It was really cool to see that little rub and maybe help them establish themselves that way, because they didn't do it with a clean victory. But again, a cool win. It was good for the tag team division itself. And again, we get an unexpected match now going into the semifinals of this Dusty Classic tournament. What did you think of that match compared to the first tag team match that we've seen in the tournament? And how excited were you about this new fresh tag team to get another upset win eventually?
I thought both tag matches were decent. I enjoyed the first one a little bit more. This second one seemed a little bit rushed, if I'm remembering right, back in just from memory here, and all the interference. You got to be careful when you're doing a tournament that you don't make the winner look weak or lucky, right? I think they made them look lucky this week, so I'm anxious to see what they look like in the next round. All right, are they going to come out and be more prepared and be able to do it without Braun Breaker, which he didn't really do anything other than take away the guy that did interfere. So
exactly.
But at the end of the day, I thought it was the right call, because obviously there's going to be something else in line for the Phantasma crew. And this might be a good way to get Inofi and Blade just onto that next level and be a prominent part of the NXT 2.0.
I like what those guys can do in the ring, and it would be really cool to see maybe the Creed brothers and this rookie team of Inofi and Blade in the finals potentially, which could lead to, because they both advanced to the semifinals. We don't know the pairings of that, because there are two matches left to happen, which would be the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Andre Trace and Budai, Hayward and MSK versus Jacket Time, which is the team of Eichmann and Kushida. Two more matches that I'm really looking forward to in this tournament. A lot of different teams that I'm not used to again, but there's a lot of excitement there because of that reason alone. It's not the same old that we're used to seeing in previous tournaments, that, we're just seeing a lot of the same matchups on the main roster as well. So this is a fresh new look, something that always excites me about NXT. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this tournament because, again, like I said, any team that has won the Dusty Classic tournament has gone on to bigger and better things. Right. So it's only going to excel, that winning team. Now, speaking of bigger and better things, Travis, and speaking of the current NXT World Champion, potentially on tonight's episode, we might have seen, or they might have lined up or planted a seed, I guess I should say, for Braun Breaker's next opponent. And speaking of, Legado del Fantasma, the leader, Santos Escobar tried to shoot a shot a subtle way last week when they were meeting each other on the entrance there. He gave him the up and down. He showed off his body. He wanted to make himself look important, feel important, which he's now done, especially after this week in regards to potentially being the next guy to challenge Braun Breaker for the NXT Championship. Very different dynamic in ring from what Braun's been used to, I think, so far in this very short-lived NXT career, and even shorter reign as champion. So for this to be a first title defense, I guess, like a true title defense, how do you think about this pairing potentially matching up? And what do you think of both guys in general?
I think it could be a style clash, no pun intended, but in a good way, right? You're going to see Braun Breaker try to branch out and prove that he can go against these different styles. So I don't think that we're going to see Escobar win it, but I think that he's going to be able to be that first feud or that first match that we talked about last week to see where Braun Breaker's going to head. And I think that also, as we mentioned, with him, just showing off his body or having that little kind of face-to-face at the top of the entranceway. Right now, we're seeing that they are going to start kind of playing into that, which is another thing that we kind of predicted last week. So it's good to see that they're not just doing all this for Nye, right? It's not for nothing. So, but anyway, I think it'll be a good match. You got Powerhouse and somebody that I think he can have some power moves, but he's going to be quicker, right? So you're just going to see that dynamic where can he work circles around him and at the end of the night make the pinfall, or is the power going to catch up with him?
Exactly. You got to watch out for Electric Lopez as well. She's evil on the outside. She's a manager that, still gets involved in her clients' matches. She still tries to assist, and do those subtle things that a good manager should be doing without taking away attention from their actual client in ring. I think she personally gives a good positive rub. She contributes to the matches that Santos has and just adds to his character, in so many different ways and layers that just positively benefits him to have her at her side. And, he's good in ring. We've seen him on the mic. We've heard him on the mic. He's really good established talent nowadays. He's definitely taken himself to another step, another level. And, potentially I'm excited for that matchup because it could have been something like we've seen tonight with Roddy and Walter, that kind of style of match. And I like that.
And I'm excited too, because I don't know much about Escobar, but I do know that just based off of the little bit that I have seen him, he has that presence. He has character. Like I bought into him as soon as I seen him go face to face, right? Tonight with the little backstage thing. I'm like, okay, I can get into this. So I'm excited for it too. I think it'll be a good pairing.
Yeah, he definitely knows how to draw heat. And again, Braun Breaker, of course, the NXT champion of the world, knows how to create sympathy and, have people back him up as a face powerhouse that can just run through just about anybody. We've seen guys like Goldberg in the past. We've seen, other superstars try to do this route. But I think being a Steiner, realistically, he's natural in his blood to be this character, this type of badass that everyone can rally behind, see as champion, and he can go in there and just dominate or decimate anybody that gets in the ring with. And he's still not going to make them look bad, even if he wins or does that type of thing, because again, he's established himself as that top baby face, that powerhouse, that legitimate athlete that we know the Steiners to be as. So it's really going to be interesting to see when they do this next match between the two of them, because again, it's impossible for them not to do it now. They've invested into it. They're slowly building up, planting seeds last week. And again, it's something different, something refreshing that I will continuously say. That's what I love about NXT 2.0. Now, speaking of another title, I was questioning what was going to happen with this, the direction. I wasn't sure where they were going to go to or go in, I should say. It seems like they're adding many, many factors into this, or many layers as well, with the North American Championship. We got Grimes, we got Tony D'Angelo, who had the funeral, obviously, for Pete Dunne tonight after last week's crowbar to the chest. Uh, I think he broke, like you said, broke the crowbar over him. So if that's the case, definitely we should have been having a funeral this week. It was interrupted again, something else that involved interference or interruption within no time of the promo beginning. Didn't even let the time to, lay out or, play out, I guess I should say, without interruption. But the way that it went in, I was excited because we had so many factors now, or potential factors that come into play for challenging for the North American Championship. It's always a title that I've liked since Adam Cole, was the first champion, Bay. It's grown. I've seen it be set back with current champions down the road, that I didn't think deserved it.
Right.
Or just handed that title for, the push to the main roster, which we've seen with Keith Lee, Damian Priest, guys like that, that essentially used it as a stepping stone to get where they are now. And, there wasn't really any value being built for that belt, and it wasn't really being defended as often as I like to see. Now it's interesting because we have a whole different dynamic, in that title picture. We have new characters, new talent to work with, new characters and talent to build up towards that, that potential world championship rush. So currently, what do you think of the North American Championship title state? And, who would you like to see contend for that title moving along at the next event or major live premium event, as they call them now for NXT 2.0?
I personally think I'd like to see that be a triple threat. If not a triple threat, definitely Cameron Grimes, Tony D'Angelo, not somebody I know a lot about. And other than this Mafia style Sleep with the Fishes memorial he did tonight with his little his gimmick or his accent. That's about all I know about him, other than what I've seen last week. But it was convincing. He said he wanted NXT gold around his waist, and he was going to go for the North American title. And then, of course, cue Carmelo, and their little promo there went well. And then out comes the man, Cameron Grimes, who I think he's going to be the next champion. So we'll see. To the moon.
To the moon we go, and not with SpaceX.
Right.
But what do you? Speaking of Carmelo Hayes, I my first time really getting to see him was last week. Rousey, our boy, who couldn't make it with us tonight, was big on him. Got to see him tonight, a little bit more of him at least. His demeanor, the way that he carries himself with Williams, I think he handles it really well. I think he is that next up and coming guy for that championship. Yeah. He definitely has the look, the feel, the vibe, something that everyone can buy into as a legitimate North American champion as well. So, like you said, very exciting potential matchups there, something to look forward to, and to help potentially build that credibility back up for the North American title, which is huge, very important, especially if you're using that title as a stepping stone to get to the NXT championship in a similar manner that they use the IC title and the world title now. So
right. I love the way he sells it as the A championship. Right.
The A championship.
Him and Trick Williams have that presence like you were talking about, and that's invaluable if you're a champion. It's something that should be kind of a prerequisite as a champion to have that, and he does. And I think Grimes will have it too.
Definitely. Grimes and LA Knight, they had their awesome Butler feud a little while back. It was very comical. So we got to see that side of Cameron Grimes. Now we get to see the serious side. But Tony D'Angelo, again, he's got the physical size, he's got the demeanor, he's got the character, he's got the voice. The demeanor as well. He's good on the mic. Potential superstar, potential world champion, potential feud for Braun Breaker, potentially down the road. A lot of potential there. Right. But again, slow burn it. Take your time, and let the guy develop in ring, on mic a little bit more. Establish himself as a main top guy, and potentially we could see him in that main event spot.
Oh yeah, I think that, like I said, I would love to see it be a triple threat match, and I think that helps everybody, no matter who comes out with the title.
Oh, definitely, 100% for sure. And speaking of LA Knight, he was out there earlier, right off the bat. He's got some problems brewing up with another fellow new superstar in the making, a guy with a lot of talent, a guy that we got to see, perform last week in the main event. So that was really cool against AJ Styles. He didn't quite pull it off, but I'm pretty big on Grayson Waller. What do you think about the guy, and what do you think about his potential feud with LA Knight. Two top superstars, two favorite guys of mine. But again, Travis, the floor is yours. What do you think of this rival? What do you think of this matchup?
I'm not sure how much you knew about Waller before last week. I knew absolutely nothing. And for him to step in with AJ Styles, have a match that he went toe to toe, obviously AJ is going to be able to make anybody look as good as he wants them. But I think Grayson Waller stepped up to the challenge and he did a great job at it. So automatically, I have that respect for him and I want to see him involved in something because I want to see if he can continue that momentum, right? Hope it's not a pendulum where it starts to come back, right? I hope he can keep it going. So, and if you're going to go in with anybody to continue that, it's going to be LA Knight, right? A returning LA Knight at that. So a lot of hype there. And this whole restraining order, now we're not going to see them touch each other until they have a match, right? Again, story, at least we have one story going on. But then we went right into Waller versus Dexter Lumis.
Yes.
And I still liked what I've seen from Waller. So, I'm not disappointed yet.
Yeah, he picked up the win over Lumis, which you don't get to see too often on the NXT program. Lumis is considered a high-touted guy himself. He's got the physical size, the attributes as well. For that the image that WWE and NXT 2.0 like. And so, to see them get Grayson Waller over by beating a guy like Dexter Lumis, that just sets the bar on where he currently stands, especially after that match with AJ Styles, like you said.
Right. And now he has an insurance policy.
Yes.
Which is what might be why he won. I don't know. Interference, they don't do that much. So
he's got a nicer beard than me. We still don't know his name per se. Didn't even recognize him, his face, anything like that.
I really don't recognize him. So, good.
Something new. Again, right? Instead of a real story. The restraining order is awesome to me. That's an old school move that you don't see anymore. Right. So the fact that they're doing these little subtle things that happened in the Mecca era, as I call it, a lot of people call it the golden era or the attitude era as well. Stuff like that we haven't seen since back then. It just makes my heart beat a little bit fast because it gives me some sort of a hope that, one of these brands from WWE is going to do it right. And slowly but surely, not calling you Shirley Trav, but I see NXT 2.0 making that first turnaround between all three brands, as I predicted on, the first go around that Jared and I had with Wrestling Never Sleeps before everyone came in. Right. So to see the transition slowly happening, watching it week by week, gets my hopes up high. Again, I'm waiting for WWE to let me down, as they typically do in a lot of different ways. Yep. But with this, I think they're doing it right. And I think they're bringing in these new talent guys, the women as well. They're slow burning this storyline, and that's the right thing to do. They're not allowing each other to touch each other, before the big match, which is very key and important to keep heat on the actual rivalry itself without giving anything for free.
Right.
Not saying that there's pay-per-view anymore, as we know, but
right.
they're not giving it on TV week by week by week. They're letting it reminisce. They're letting us think about this. They're letting us talk about it before we have to digest it and swallow that pill, which is awesome.
And I think that maybe that will start to be some of the good influence that we see from a Bruce Pritchard.
Definitely, because he does know how to slow burn, whether the story makes sense or not. He doesn't rush into things. I think with the NXT era that we're used to, the Gold and Black brand, things weren't really rushed, but they didn't really get to settle either before they were finished. I think it was a lot to do with main office wanting new talent to come up to the main roster. So I think Triple H was under a lot of pressure to create new stars really, really fast. But now that Triple H is out of the way, Bruce is in there. He can do things his way.
He's over all three of them, so
exactly.
He might have a little bit more of an idea of what and when, right? What to do and when people are going to be moving. So, I don't know. I'm anxious to see. I think overall, even with all the interference that I've griped about, I think this was a lot better episode than last week, and I hope it continues that.
I agree, and we mentioned it about Raw as well the other night. So, Raw from the week before seemed to be an improvement. NXT 2.0 this week, definitely an improvement from last week. So it's just snowballing now until we get to that major next event, which is going to be really badass. I'm wondering if we're going to see NXT guys in the Rumble this year. Potentially, I don't think we do. I think they're going to keep it separate, which I personally would like, because again, you want to make these brands different. You want to make them stand out. Adding NXT guys to a Royal Rumble match that involve the other two brands, sure, if they win, they challenge for the NXT championship. That would be cool, but I don't think they should be able to pick a main roster title until they graduate from NXT to that main roster.
And I'm right there with you. Somebody asked me about that the other day on one of the streams, and I stand behind. I don't want any NXT person in there. They're rebuilding right now, right? If you're going to put anybody in there, it would maybe be Braun Breaker, but he's the champion. Don't throw him in there for just to fill a spot, right?
No.
Let's continue to build NXT. You have people jumping back and forth on Raw and SmackDown with different things that's going on. Keep it that. Not to say that never put an NXT guy in there, but this year I don't think it's the year to put anybody in the Rumble match itself. Maybe have an NXT title match at the Rumble would be cool, right? Something like that. But I don't think they're building towards anything like that either. So just keep it separate, keep plugging away, and let's see what happens at the next takeover.
Definitely. I can't wait for the next takeover, because it seems like we said, we talked about it all night long. There's a lot of build up tonight, a lot of build up last week in a more subtle manner, but tonight they went over the edge a little bit more to push that envelope for each and every storyline that's going on. Something that we get to look forward to next weekend. One thing before we jump into next week, because we were revealed, two matches that are potentially, or that are going to happen next week. There's a women's 6-man tag match, and then a no falls count anywhere and no DQ match. But before that, what do you think about what we saw with Odyssey Jones and Gacy / Harland? I'm caught up on this Harland guy. I know Miss Parker Boudreaux, a legitimate athlete that everyone thought that looked like Brock Lesnar, which he did. He did, by all means. Similar look, maybe similar size, definitely. Similar talents. Obviously, the guy being a really good, amazing football player, coming over to the training center, coming in through NXT, being part of this new generation of stars NXT 2.0 is presenting to us. He doesn't talk. He's got Gacy beside him, and he's got a very unique style as well in ring. But tonight we've seen him, more malicious side, true side of, what Harland is potentially all about. And that's being vicious. That's being protective of Gacy. And obviously he's in a very dark place as a person and mindset for what he did to Odyssey. Obviously, it shows that. What do you think of Harland, this Gacy combination? They're not in the Dusty Classic, which I was hoping for, because they lost last week due to DQ. But they're involving Odyssey Jones now, who is also another great talent, up and coming guy that has a lot of charisma, a lot of talent in ring. So maybe they're finally getting ready to pull the trigger on Harland, and maybe, put him into something that's locked in place to help his character grow a little bit even more, rather than just coming out, demolishing guys in minutes, and then walking away without even saying anything.
I think they're definitely getting ready to put some background, some more push into Harlan. And let's be honest, I do not want to run into him in a bright lit alley, let alone a dark alley. He's scary as shit. All those tattoos, that mean mugging face he has. And then you have the opposite with Gacy, right? Who can deliver that positive message, but in a psychotic tone. So you really, for me, I really bought into them tonight, because I'm like, at first that's weird, but then once they had that little thing with Odyssey Jones, you knew what was coming.
Yes.
And then when it finally happened, a little part of me is like, yes, right?
Yes.
Because that's gonna be something I can look forward to. You're building something, maybe an old school way. But I'm excited to see what happens with Jones when he comes back, and with Harlan as they move on. I think that you see Gacy more of a manager role, right? And Harlan just coming out and beating the shit out of everybody. And maybe they eventually become a tag team. I don't know, but I liked it. I like where we're starting. I'm just anxious to see where we go.
Yeah, it's like you said, Harlan just gives off a different vibe. He's almost at that brink of point where, when he walks onto the screen, that hair on the back of your neck wants to stand up a little bit, because you get that presence of something sadistic, something, different, a little offsetting, that doesn't make you feel comfortable, but you still want to see more of it develop.
Right. And I think Gacy's the perfect compliment, because I think, like I said, he can he can be that voice, and he can deliver stuff in a way that, like what I was saying with the whole, he delivers this positive message, let's stay positive, but you can sense that psychotic side, right?
It's
That
almost like
just,
a Wail and Mercy type delivery,
yeah,
where he's smiling at you, but he's ready to tell you that he's ready to gouge out your eyes.
right.
And the fact that he's smiling puts it off, and doesn't hit you as hard, but it hits you harder inside. You know what I mean? It doesn't hit you smack dab in the verbally in the face, but it makes you think.
Deep down, something's going to happen. Deep down, watch your back. Right.
Interesting development for sure all throughout the night. But again, the main topic of tonight was all the interference. And something that we definitely need to talk about. Despite all the good in-ring action, the promos that we saw, the build-up, the lead up to the next event, potential title challengers, coming into play for each and every title on the and for the brand itself. But interference, like I remember back in the day, Travis, like on an 8-match card, you might see maybe 2 different times where some sort of interference might botch or might work out for the match itself. So the fact that we've seen every single match except for one have interference involved, to me that just sounds like lazy booking. As someone that's put a show together, I believe I had interference in my opening match, and that was the only thing that that I can remember offhand with that potential card or that card, and it was effective because it led up to a 6-man tag the following event. So There was some sort of story there. It was leading towards something bigger and better, and it was pushing the show forward.
Right. And even if you would have multiple matches where that's what you wanted to happen, stagger that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you sure as hell shouldn't do it all at the same time. And that again, my big gripe for tonight. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, for them to do it all throughout the night, it just kind of took the purpose of interference away. It took the value of that away. Again, being an old school fan, I like to see 1, 2, 3s or tap outs in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
If there's a manager out there, by all means, their job is there to help and protect their clients. But in most cases, we've seen people from the back running out to cause the interference, cause the DQs, cause the interruption of a flowing match. Right. And again, it takes away from the in-ring talent, I believe, whether you're building towards something bigger and better. It definitely didn't seem like that tonight or feel like that in terms of the interference that they were using. Right. It felt like there was a step backwards and taking away potential value to the talent that they had in the ring.
And it's like you said, you have different types of interference. You have interference that'll end the match because they're beating the crap out of them and they got to try to get everything separated. You have, when you have a manager out there, distraction, right? So maybe we should say interference and distraction.
Yes.
But a combination or one of each happened in every match. If you're going to have it multiple times, try to find ones that you can leave out. The Dante Chen one doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I know it's probably a past storyline or something, but did it have to happen tonight? Could he have not just come back and got a win and then a backstage segment or something? You know what I mean? Like, there's other ways to get who came in. Drew Hudson. Yeah. So he could come in a different way. He didn't have to come out and beat the crap out of Chen, who was just coming back.
Right.
So that would have been, for me, that's an example of an unnecessary one. Now, if that was the only one of the night, good, go for it. But it was one of however many matches we had. It was excessive.
Definitely over the top. Too much of it. Again, space it out, stagger it, find creative ways to maybe involve other characters into the current match or the storyline that you are developing for the long term, which they unfortunately did not do tonight. Now, question for you, Travis, being a pro wrestler yourself, experience in the ring, with all the amount of matches that you've had and all the amount of cards that you've been a part of or events that you've been a part of, can you count on your one hand or two hands how many times you've had interference in your matches or matches that you've interfered in?
That I've interfered in, there's been maybe 2 or 3. We're talking 10 years. Whenever I have a manager, right? Most of them we would have some little distraction, like it would always be different. You grab the foot, pop up on the apron long enough to provide that distraction, but it wasn't something that happened all night. Not everybody had a manager. Maybe that's a little bit of an issue here, is that there's a lot of managers. right? Which is fine. That part didn't bother me, but it's more of the running out from behind or somebody just popping out of the crowd. Like, it doesn't become it's not special anymore. If I'm going to have somebody come back, I want it to be as special as possible. If I'm going to have somebody run from the back out of the crowd, I don't want the crowd to expect it every match, right? I want it to be special. Holy shit, so-and-so came back tonight. He come out of the crowd. It was crazy. I never, like, that was, he's the only one that did that. Not, well, we had 7 people come out of the car. You know what I mean? Like, there's a way to do it to me. And, but who am I? Again, when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that it's not special.
Exactly. And yeah, it loses value in one way, shape, or form. Speaking of managers, there are a lot of managers, but one manager that I do like was on tonight's event, and that's Bevins. Yes. He is good at what he does. I watched him kind of on the indie scene before he came up to NXT and the Performance Center and the Training Center for WWE. A lot of charisma, a lot of character there. He's good at what he does. He's good on the mic. Someone very effective. This is a little bit off topic with Bevins being the main subject here, but managers, I guess, in general being the main subject. Some of my favorite managers in the past that were really effective, obviously Cornette, Bobby Heenan, Slick, even you could throw Slick in there, guys like that. We had Paulie Dangerously, who was amazing with the Alliance. But my personal favorite was always Cornette with the Midnight Express. When he, when he also managed Davey Boy Owen, Vader, Yoko at the time as well, when he first came in and was challenging for the world title. They're very valuable when used correctly, and most of them they're smart enough to the business and they know how to present themselves. They know how not to take away, from their client in ring or the match itself in ring. Bevins, new generation of that example. He does enough, but not overly. Right. Doesn't do it. Who are some of your favorite managers that you get to witness or watch? From growing up, and who are your current favorite managers and the style that you like?
Well, you mentioned most of them. Bobby the Brain was amazing. I mean, he could have so much of the spotlight on him, maybe a little bit too much at times, but he knew how to get out of it too. He knew how to get his guys. At one point, I think he managed half the roster. Yeah. Right? So people hated him, but they were also able to buy into whoever he was with, right? So if you wanted to get somebody over, just put him with Bobby, and they can turn their back on him later. Heyman, definitely. He's always the mouthpiece. Nobody does it better. Nobody can draw heat better than him on the mic. Just as good, maybe, but not better.
Yeah.
But Bivens, these last 2 weeks, that's my kind of introduction to Bivens, and I think he's got that old school manager feel, and I think that's something that we don't have. I mean, other than with Paul Heyman, but he is old school. He's been there since the 90s, maybe late 80s. One way or another, he's been a part of that culture, that being a manager or however. So I think that he's only got so many years left. I think Bivens could be somebody that we see maybe on the main roster in years to come as a solid manager.
Definitely agree with that, for sure. And, you mentioned that old school vibe, which is very important to have because there's a lot of moral there. There's a lot of kayfabe there. There's a lot of meaning there. And that tradition hopefully gets carried over through Bevins to this new generation of NXT stars. And eventually when they do go to the main roster, it, is allowed to stay put with those guys because, again, that's what they're going to come through the system, learning, knowing, and maintaining that, that information and that knowledge and that experience, right, taking up to the main roster. So hopefully that sticks.
He's able to present himself. He's got the voice. He's got the character overall, the presence, as we've said tonight, and
his facials,
right,
his facial expressions are just on point. And
just as important as that is that he's not too big to be a manager, right? You can't be bigger than the people you're managing. Just like with a ref, you can't be taller than everybody in the ring. It kind of takes away the whole concept. So he's got everything there. I just hope that he can continue to develop.
Definitely. And again, there was a bit more action moving along with NXT 2.0 tonight, there was a few other segments didn't really hold a lot of value to me. A lot of the stuff with the women, no offense to them, they're talented, but it just didn't click for me tonight. We had the stuff with Dakota Kai and Elise Leon. We had, Raquel Gonzalez, who made me laugh, actually. She's supposed to be a big, tough woman, but, when she called herself Big Mama Cool, all I could think was Big Daddy Cool, 93, 94, 95.
Right.
When Diesel was doing it back in the WWF days. I thought that was pretty cool. And she is a legit badass woman. She's got the size, the look, the in-ring ability as well. Someone that I'd like to see, a champion again before she goes up to the main roster. We had Ivy Nile versus Kaylee Lee as well, and Mandy Rose interfered in that. Another good turnaround comeback for Mandy Rose. With Fatal Attraction, her little stable there, is getting over week after week.
Toxic Attraction.
Toxic Attraction. Sorry, I don't want to keep on thinking Fatal Attraction, but Toxic Attraction. Sorry, my bad.
Good.
They're a stable that is continuously growing week by week. What do you think of the current state of the women's division within NXT 2.0 from what you've seen so far, Travis, and comparing it to what we started with the gold and black brand?
As somebody that's really just kind of diving into the deep end and seeing something like this tonight, where it's like, she's new. Like, to me, that's a little, I don't want to say overwhelming, but like with this, with Nile and Rose and everybody, the Toxic Attraction, I liked it once I was able to piece together who everybody was, what was going on, because you have the women's champion, the women's tag team champions, right? That are part of Toxic Attraction. Am I right with that?
Yes, you are correct.
Right. So you're building this feud where you can have that 6-woman tag match that makes sense. And then later you have a championship match for both tag title and the women's title, right? So you can build 2-3 months off of that. So I like that, but I don't know that you're going to beat the original women's push in NXT. Charlotte, Sasha, I mean, the whole women's evolution, right? That's gonna be hard to beat. I don't know of any woman, and this is no offense to anybody, but I don't know of anybody on the roster, honestly, that I'd want to watch have an Iron Man match. But I think back to Charlotte and Sasha, I'd watch that every night. You know what I mean? So, but again, we're in the transition period. They're gonna develop that name. They're going to develop the star power, and I think that we're heading in a good direction compared to last week. I'm just kind of still bummed and kind of pessimistic, I guess, about the whole leaving the black and gold behind. But I'm starting to lean a little bit more towards optimism, I think. So we'll see.
You're getting a little more colorful over here.
Right.
Lots of colors.
Lots of very 90s.
Splatter paint and the 2.0. So it is different. It's exciting to see the growth of a restart, because, again, this always goes back to reminding me of the 1993 New Generation push. Yep. When WWE was getting rid of the golden era. They were moving on. They were passing the torch to guys like Brett, Shawn, Razor, Kid, all those guys like that. And, we're seeing it in a bigger fashion now, because this is a much more drastic change that WWE, I think, has ever done in the history of the company.
At first, I didn't like how upfront they were being about it, but now it's starting to grow on me. And I like that they're like, all right, this is going to be completely different. Whether you like it or not, this is going to be completely different. It makes me want to give it a little bit of time to catch my attention and to draw me in. So it's almost by being upfront about it, it's going to make me tune in week after week. Now, eventually that's going to wear off. So I hope that they can, reel me in by then. But this is my first 2 episodes watching it this week and last week. And, there's some developing there that I want to see. Harlan, I want to see what goes on there. Walter, right? Braun Breaker, a little bit, just because of his family, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about him. Last week was the first I'd really seen anything of him. This week, so for me, not really knowing anything about the champion is weird. But everybody loves him, so I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to keep watching and see what goes on there too. So yeah, they're catching me. They're getting me to tune in, and they're getting me kind of excited, right? So they're doing their job. I just gotta, do mine and tune in.
Definitely. And it was a great time tonight watching this show with you again. As always, Travis, last week, this week, we're going to continue it on next week as well, all the way through. Thick and thin. We're going to give this reboot a chance, a real chance to establish itself, watch it build in progress week by week with Wrestling Never Sleeps Network. It's always a pleasure to talk, to interact with fans as well. So don't be afraid to leave comments, questions below. Once this video is posted, that's what we're here for. And this to entertain you guys, as WWE and NXT is there to entertain all of us as fans and give us something really good to talk about, which we had tonight to do. So that was awesome doing that with you, Travis. Again, NXT 2.0, the future of the WWE. Again,
question mark.
Big question mark. So again, really exciting stuff. A lot of things still in question, but again, a lot of positives coming out of this week. Wrestling Never Sleeps. You can catch us on Instagram, YouTube is our main channel as well at Wrestling Never Sleeps. Stay tuned, follow along. Tomorrow night there is AWE action with Dynamite. Bada bing, bada boom, baby. So two other members of the network, Jared and Tyrell, will be hosting that. Always a pleasure, Travis. Where can catch you on social media as well before we take off?
Again, you can find me on Facebook under my name, Travis Lillard. You can find me on Twitter at It's Lillard Time. You can catch me on Instagram, Coach Lillard1. I'm a little bit of everything. A little bit all over the place. All different. I need to go back through and make all the names the same, so I don't have to sit here and read a book.
you got a cue card. All the different names. This one goes here. This one goes here. At the end of every episode, guys, we're gonna put you on a quiz. You're gonna have to line up the handles with the platforms that Travis uses. So stay tuned for that.
You can only comment if you get it right. We don't want to hear your opinion unless you know a little bit about me.
Again, I am the Canadian one, the straight shoot in a suit. Real Adam Anthony James Martin is my handle on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find me if you like me that much as well. Even if you don't like me, bada bing, bada boom. Coverage is still coverage, whether it's good or bad. I take it because I'm going to fire it right back at you, just like we do every Tuesday night for NXT 2.0. We tell it like it is because that is how the straight shoot does it, baby. And again, Travis, you have an excellent evening. For everyone listening and watching the show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, we will make you tap out via subscription, baby. So again, have a good night.
Don't forget to tap that bell.
Yeah, tap that bell. Ding, ding.
Sir.